Hi there, and welcome to the Rangers Rabble. I'm joined today as Alex, and we're going to do a wee bit of talking about Rangers v Aberdeen, the tactical side of the game, and we'll see how we go. So, how are you doing, Alex?
Yeah, I'm not bad. Yeah, obviously not the best result the other night, and it kind of feels like a loss the way it went down. But um, big chance to recover on Friday, so just have a look over this one.
Well, we'll go over, and we'll go over we'll start with formation we started with, and tactic wise, what you maybe, well, we're saying what you done wrong. Obviously, he's in a better position than us, but we'll just go over what we think he can be done different, or what we think he got right and why it didn't work and why we've not maybe had so much fluency we've had. Saying that, in the last few games we have struggled at times, but this is the first drop points he's had. So I wouldn't say, I've seen reports people saying he's under a wee bit of pressure. I think that's kind of stretching it a bit. I think it's just a
Yeah,
wee bump in the road, but we'll have a look at it. So obviously we started with our usual kind of four at the back, and he played two holding midfielders. I was saying Kamara and Sands we had Jay in front, and then Kent, Wright, and Morelos. And would you say going up to Aberdeen, that was the right formation? Was it maybe starting Sands before maybe Lundstrom or somebody else
yeah.
was a surprise?
I was surprised to see Sands in there, but I thought he held his own, and after like a quiet start, he definitely made his way into the game. But just to give Gio a little bit of slack. Um, he was left without Davis and Arfield. Obviously, they're injured and Rebo's away, so he was almost forced into playing it. Obviously, he's got Makuna there, who was, quite a few people said that he should have played. But yeah, I think it was too defensive. You could see that as soon as the game started, Aberdeen had more of the ball in the midfield where the battles were won, and I think, but Rangers were almost forced into it just with the players that are missing at the moment. But yeah, it was too defensive.
Do you feel obviously Sands was sitting deep? I know you get back criticism the other night, which I feel is very unfair on the boy, especially when he's just come into a new setup, new country, new way of playing, new way of living. Everything's different for him. I thought he equipped himself very well. In fact, I thought even I'm not big on stats. I think they're useful, but I prefer seeing them eye to eye. But I thought he'd done really well in the game. I thought Kamara was slightly disappointing. I thought Glenn could have maybe brought the line more and
Yeah,
let Sands sit because Sands seemed to be a lot deeper, but Kamara seemed to as well. And it was just too
yeah,
much space between they two and maybe Hadji and the rest of the guys further forward.
yeah. Well, that's it. Kamara's a stylish player. He can do the little bits and flicks and tricks and get somebody with just like a little body feint. We've seen it before. We've seen it before against Scott Brown in the old firm. He can do it in big games. He moves the ball forward. He's very fluent. He's got a good flow, a quick flow. So it is disappointing to not see him going forward because he's got it, and maybe he's missing his partner in crime, Joe Rebo, and they can get their little 1-2s off because they've got a
Yeah,
good relationship. But it would have been nice to see him link up a bit more with the front three or four if you're including Hadji.
yeah. I just felt the back six, as we'll just say the back six at Holden and the four back at the back. There was a lot of distance between them and the forward four. I just felt at times there was too big a gap. And when we had
Yeah,
the ball, we tried to recycle it either getting back the way because the out ball wasn't there for us, which is with a Rangers team, we should obviously, the way we play and the players we've got, we should be able to pick a man out to get attack. I mean,
yeah,
we've seen it through the goal, how quick we got up the park. I think it was four passes and it was in the back of the net, so we know we can do it. But throughout the game, we were very slow, we were very passive, we were quite soft, and the out ball wasn't there for us. And do you think it was formation? Do you think it was tactical, or do you just think the players didn't show up because let's say we had two holding midfield players, which I know some people say you don't need, but sometimes you do. But surely one of them's got to break forward and leave the other one sitting. And the full backs to me weren't pushing up. I think Aberdeen spotted that because Aberdeen were finding space in the middle of the park through Brown because Brown was finding, well, he had numerous of chances at the edge of the box. Lewis Ferguson was finding space in there. Hedges was going from side to side. Ojo, I mean, Jenks a couple of shots. It was just Aberdeen seemed to find space that we didn't.
yeah, yeah. I think the best way to look back at it is our style never had to adapt when we dropped down to 10 men. We played the exact same
Yeah,
way as we did when we had 11 men. We weren't aggressive. We weren't going on the front, and we weren't pushing Aberdeen back. Whereas Aberdeen were doing that to us. They pinned the fullbacks back. even when we were on the ball, Tavernier, you saw it, he was having to come inside.
Yeah,
Obviously we play our wingers a little bit wider with Gio, but Tavernier was having to come on the inside because that was the only option he had. So yeah, the fullbacks were, I think, don't want to give credit to, but Aberdeen dealt with the fullbacks well, and that's a lot of our threat. I actually thought Borna was pretty poor going forward and going backwards. I mean, obviously he gets caught out for the penalty call with Alan McGregor in
yeah,
the first half, and it comes on his side when Jenks hits the post as well.
yeah. Well, I thought, to be honest with you, I thought Sands lost his man there. I thought
Yeah,
Sands was standing with Jinx, and then he got attracted to the ball, and Jinx took a shot. It was never getting in. It was always swerving away, but you should don't let the players get a shot for that close to a goal. Because if it did hit a target, I think Alan would have been struggling to catch it. But
yeah,
I just thought the fullbacks, right, Scott Wright got a bit of criticism as well. Defensively, I thought he done okay because he was helping to have cover. But you said on the left side, Ryan Kent and Borna, they usually have a good understanding, but for some reason it didn't seem to be there on Tuesday night.
yeah,
Kent wasn't dropping as deep at times, or if he was, Borna wasn't pushing up. So I don't know what was wrong with him. Kent done well at the start, but then it seemed to be the boy Ramsey recovered and he kind of
yeah,
kept him out. So he was coming inside more, and Borna wasn't getting by him. He was kind of staying, like you said earlier. No, we don't play as far forward as he did, but maybe we should in games like this because we need to attack. Because going to Aberdeen's always got a difficult game, but when you go one up, you have to try and press for the second. You
mhm,
can't sit deep and have a low block because it's only
yeah.
1-0 lead. Anything can happen. But I just think, do you think Gio look back and think he got it wrong, or do you think he'll look back and think it's a point?
From the performance, he'll look back with both. He'll look back, listen, we had the wrong setup, but it's a point gained rather than 2 points dropped. In the circumstances, we
Yeah,
played poor. We didn't deserve to win it. So I think when you go 1-0 up against a team, there's nobody, you don't want to sit back and invite the pressure on because even if you get the ball and you get a counter, there's a lot less chance. And if you control the ball and control possession, if you're always on the ball, keeping up their half, it takes them to counter you.
yeah.
You're on the ball, you're in control of the game, you're closer to getting a second than they are to getting a first. And it's not like we were going to Aberdeen as underdogs. If you go 1-0 up against Dortmund, let's say, just an example, away, I would expect us to, sit back a little bit because Dortmund have to put the pressure on. They have to get the equaliser because they're at home. It's a big game. They need to win it to take or get something to take to the second leg. When it's a league game and you're 1-0 up against Aberdeen, who are on good form but have had an underwhelming season, and we have the quality to go and grab a second. Why not? Why not go for it? Which is when he took took Scott Wright off and put Hadji out wide. Even though the lines we weren't breaking, that didn't work whatsoever. It made us sit deeper, and there wasn't the link between, because we had such a deep sitting midfield. You needed a link between the deep sitting midfield and the attack. You needed a link
Yeah.
in the middle, and that was what Hadji was. Even if he was just a decoy run or whatever, that's what he was. So taking him out of the game, allowed Aberdeen to just control the midfield.
I mean, none of the midfielders, like I know they're two defensive midfielders, but none of them were even taking the ball, running forward with it. As soon as we got it, we were looking for a pass, a simple pass. It wasn't like let's even stride 2, 3 yards and look up and see the pass because it was like they were just they weren't even trying to keep possession. A lot of times we're just passing it, I thought, for the sake of passing it. So I don't know if even they thought there wasn't an out ball because it's not like Rangers. But what I've noticed the past while under Gio, were percentage of play isn't been as high as it was previously. I don't know if that's a different formation the way Gio plays. I'm not sure. I just feel. Do you think we're
Yeah,
playing as attacking as we have in the past? I
yeah,
just feel against Aberdeen. I mean, Aberdeen, as we know, when you see their lineup, you know what they know what they're going to give you. They're going to be aggressive.
yeah,
They're going to try and stop you play. They're going to press you. But we know that's going to happen. So Rangers should be
yeah,
countering that because with boys, their defence isn't the best, as we know, and midfield's not the best either. Scott Brown does what he does. Lewis Ferguson does what he does, but we should have better players technically. better
Well,
players and more
I,
talented to go through that.
yeah, I think obviously on the show I was last on last week with yourself, Scotty, and Wilf, Wilf was saying, listen, we go up to Aberdeen. The only way we shouldn't win this or don't win this is if we allow ourselves to get brought into a battle rather than a football match. And it's exactly what happened. You know, the yellow cards were flying about, and then you knew it would happen, so they didn't react the best to that. But go back to your point about possession. At home, we dominate games a lot more, and we seem to break teams down a lot better. And I'm not sure if away is just because Gio's had a tough start away with Hearts, Hibs, and Livy away is a tough tie, and obviously Aberdeen now as well. But we do seem to be a little more defensive, with the exception of Livingston. The two
Yeah,
goals against Hearts come in a couple of minutes.
yeah,
The goal against Hibs, it was a very, it wasn't a classic game. It was quite a boring game, and it takes the penalty to get the goal. Okay, it's a little bit of Kent magic in that one that breaks it down. But it was nothing tactical. It was that little bit that it was a very stale game, and it was the same. It wasn't a classic against Aberdeen. It was quite stale. So it's something they need to look at. Whether that means changes in bringing people in and out to fit Gio's system better than get them in sooner rather than later. Personally,
do you think he's only going to stick with this system he's got? I think he will go to three at the back. I think he will just play four at the back. I think he has to
I,
bring the fullbacks further more.
yeah. Well, I think personally this season he's probably better not to switch between different tactics just because he's only been here a couple months.
Yeah,
It's rather to drill one tactic into them or one main formation and then build the tactics off of that and then in the summer get a good preseason and bring the players that are going to fit different tactics so that you have a broader range. But at the moment with what he's got, unless we bring players in, he's got to do the subtle changes. And unfortunately, away from home, we're just not dominating games. I don't know if that's something that's massively switched between Gerrard and Gio. Is yes, under Gerrard we were a bit more passive in possession. It was pass, 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 and wait for one of them to make a move out before you get the
yeah.
ball, the final ball. Whereas now it's right. Okay, we've got the ball. Let's try and counter, and we might lose it a few times, but that's all we're doing is we're sitting back and hoping to counter. Whereas it should be the odd counter as well as domination when you're at Rangers.
What I've also noticed, Alex, in Aberdeen game is every set piece Aberdeen had, free kick, corner, the ball came at the edge of the box and the Aberdeen player was there before a Rangers player. It
Yeah,
was like all our, I don't know, we were man marking, we were zone marking. It was like we were all very deep in our own
yeah,
area. There was no one at the edge of the box waiting for the ball coming out. I mean, Scott Brown had two or three opportunities. We were lucky to fail him.
yeah,
If it was somebody else, it could have been a different story. But
yeah.
is that not something we should be putting on? Somebody in the edge of the box? I mean, surely that's just common sense. I mean,
Yes,
you do that, put
I think
somebody at the edge of the box.
a lot of it was down to reactions as well. Nobody was reacting quicker to the second ball. I mean, Aberdeen just looked like they wanted the second ball more. They wanted to take the snapshot opportunities, whereas Rangers were almost, you know, like I say, inviting the pressure on, but they were sitting back, almost expecting somebody else from our team to get there. Whereas there was not that shout to go or somebody to just take control and go and be that player, be that star man, and block the shots, get in the way. Let's just say, like you say, the edge of the box ones, the ball comes in, somebody headers it out. Brown was there, and he hit one over in the first half that if it's Lewis Ferguson or maybe Christian Ramirez, you're a bit more worried that that's finding its way into the back of the net. If we've got somebody there, Hadji, Kent, somebody that's not going to win the headers in the box, somebody that's there, and then somebody else a bit further up, they take the ball, take a touch, make the
Yeah.
pass, and they're away. It's not just about defensively.
No,
That
I
can
know.
start an attack.
Yeah,
That can
I
start
know.
an attack massively.
I know. And I watched the game back and I thought to myself, like you've just mentioned that actually, we lost a lot of second balls. It's like we will win the first one, but we kind of switched off for the second. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's a mindset, if you can say the way we played, but I thought Kamara, Sands done okay defensively. I thought Golson was fine at the back. I thought Bassey was fine defensively. His distribution was poor. He gave the ball away a few
yeah,
times. His passing was poor. But I've seen people say movement to left back. To me, he's not a left back. He's a centre back. He's grown into that position. He's solid enough there defensively.
Yeah,
Just distribution's not great. So I thought they four were actually okay. It was everybody around about him. I thought were very passive going forward, very slow
yeah,
going forward, and it was like nobody wanted to. You said they were all looking for each other to make that
yeah.
individual
Well, I think the problem
talent.
was we
To,
were, yeah,
you,
the problem we had was we were better off the ball than we were on it, and it was worrying because a lot of times they wanted to be off the ball and invite Aberdeen onto them, and we were better off the ball in terms of at the back, whereas the midfield, if we were to win the ball back, the distribution was poor, like you said. Bassi had a few. I think Borna had one or two as well. The distribution from the back when we were on the ball, I thought wasn't the best at all, and that's why it struggled to get forward, especially with any real pace. Because there was the one, obviously, the goal. It doesn't take long for us to get the ball, make a couple quick passes, all of a sudden we're up the other end. Okay, we get a bit of luck with Aberdeen not knowing who's going for the ball, but Hadji's there, he's in the position, and he pokes it home.
I mean, that's what I mean. You mentioned the goal there. 4 passes, I think it was, and it was in the back of the net because we played at more intensity, a bit higher tempo, and had
Yeah,
you made the run off the defenders and they didn't know who to mark, who was getting the ball. And if you do that more often, then we're going to get chances. But after that, I don't know if the players thought that was enough. I don't know if it was did Aberdeen
two.
make them think. It
Yeah,
was
it was
just we were very soft after that. We seemed to just think, right, we scored a goal here, we can defend, and that's a dangerous game to play if that's the way we thought because it doesn't matter who you're playing against. One goal, surely you can't get that in your
it was
head.
too
That's enough.
slow. It was too slow. Um, the only person in the attack that really pressed once Wright had come off was Morelos. Um, Before that, okay, Wright did a little bit, Kent did a little bit, but it was mainly Morelos. Obviously, you get the big chance when Morelos almost scores. Could have gone around Joe Lewis if he takes a better touch. There's a million thoughts going through his head, and if he's a little bit quicker, he gets the touch earlier and can get it away. But I think it was just too slow. It was way too slow on the ball and off the ball. That meant it took a little bit longer to get back into positions, and then they were just being too protective of themselves.
I mean, Alfie struggled for service all night, didn't he? And it wasn't really any fault of his own. He was making the runs, he was trying to get into position, but he wasn't getting any service into him. And when he does that,
Yeah,
people start to criticise him. But I thought he actually had a decent game, as in what he was trying to do. He was making the runs
yeah,
off players. He was coming deep to try and get it. Because
yeah.
he was trying to go in behind, but he wasn't getting anything at all service wise. And he looked frustrated, and you can
Yeah,
understand why. Because we all know how good he is at holding the ball up. We all know how good he is at rolling a player when when a player's close to him. So, but we weren't for some reason we weren't getting the ball out wide. We weren't get coming. The ball wasn't coming from midway apart. We were struggling, and I've been seeing the formation we played. Would you have took maybe one of my holding midfielder players off and put somebody on more attacking
yeah,
wise? I know the
yeah.
bench. Everybody says the bench wasn't strong. I thought the bench was actually okay myself.
When it goes to when we're 1-0 up and he takes Scott Wright off and puts Hadji out wide, where listen, we've seen Hadji out wide, and it's not his main position. You've got to cut him a bit of slack for that. But you saw him in the middle the other night, and again, he wasn't brilliant, but his positioning was a lot better. He wasn't brilliant on the ball. He was still, just a bit complacent, but his positioning was a lot better when he was central. When he
Yeah,
went out right and you took Scott Wright off, the threat wasn't, there was no ability to link up with Morelos because there was nobody in behind. You were relying on the crosses, and obviously that's not Hadji's strong point. Um, I would have maybe, if you're going to take Scott Wright off, I would have liked to see him go with Itten. I would have liked to see Itten and Morelos then up top together, and have Kent and Wright almost Kent and Hadji, sorry, almost like the tens that Gerrard used to play.
so that means if you're doing that, you have to bring the fullbacks forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
of course. That's the aim, isn't it? Because Rangers have the best fullbacks in the league going forward.
yeah.
They are so good at going forward, and what they do going forward, their distribution, their crosses, both of them have a wicked shot in them as well. So yeah, you need to utilize your tools, and having them going forward is ideal.
And you could probably do that because we all know what James Sands could fill in at right centre back or right back because that's where he's played before. I mean, looking at the bench, I mean, they brought on Lundstrom for right, which Lundstrom is, it might have been the right call if he was changing light for light, but to take off a right-sided midfielder or attacking player, bringing on John Lundstrom
Yeah,
to play with
it
next
was.
to two guys who's very similar mould, it just made us sit deeper, didn't it, for the last 20
Yeah,
minutes, and it was
I didn't think Lundstrom specifically did anything wrong, but he never did anything right either. And I think Gio got that one wrong. I think that was the wrong call. Like I said, if you're going to take a winger off, I would have wanted him to go for a second striker, not necessarily to go and try and you know put 4 or 5 past Aberdeen, because in that game that wasn't realistic. That wasn't going to
yeah.
happen. But even if you're going to sit back and try and counter attack, having two strikers up there rather than one gives you a much better opportunity to score.
Like I said, we just felt like the formation might not have been the problem, but just the team didn't seem in sync. The spaces,
No.
we didn't have the right space over the park. We weren't linking up well, and I thought Aberdeen played through us far too easily until they
Yeah.
got to maybe the back four, and the back four were quite solid. And apart from Al McGregor acting like Superman coming out for the ball, and he had one save, didn't he, for Jenks? But apart from that,
Yeah.
he didn't really have a
Well,
lot to
there's
do for the possession they had.
yeah. The problem was, like you say, is we lost a lot of the midfield battles, and the defense was good. When Aberdeen got to the defense, they struggled. But because of that, the defense didn't have a lot of options, and Aberdeen won a lot of corners, which obviously
Yeah,
one of the corners leads to the penalty for their goal. But that's because Tavernier he was stuck between a hard place and a rock. He has to either put the ball out or leave it to go behind him, which you don't do as a defender. So he's
yeah.
obviously done the right thing. Borna had a couple on the other side. Um, I thought, obviously Aberdeen are a threat from corners and set pieces. We saw at Ibrox when Scott Brown scored the header. They are a threat from set pieces. They are good from set pieces, and obviously that wins them the penalty that they go on and equalise with.
Maybe 123 aerial duels. Sorry, 18 aerial duels the other night. Aberdeen only get six. Obviously, one led to the penalty. But getting back to that, we mark the box. I don't know if we go, let's say, man for man or we go zonal. Zonal, I'm not a big fan of. I prefer man for man. But I know it's a tactics pod as well. But on the penalty, I will have to bring up. I thought Lewis Ferguson put his hands in the back of Borna and pushed him before he got the header. I don't know what your opinion is of
Yeah.
that. I think it could have been a
Well,
free kick, but
yeah.
am I just looking for something that wasn't there? I just thought
Um,
you see sometimes things like that happen in a football match, and the referee says no free kick because there's an infringement.
yeah. Listen, if VAR is in Scottish football, there's a lot of different decisions in that games. In that game, we can talk about the ifs and buts, because for me, obviously, it is a penalty. The penalty, that I don't like that rule. I think there's nothing Morelos can do without cutting his arm off to get his arm out of the way of the ball
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
There's not a lot he can do. I'm not a big fan of that rule, but it is a penalty. But yeah, I mean, as well as this a tactical show, I think the person who got it most tactically wrong was the referee, the man in the middle.
So do you think we'll see Joe Gomez? Obviously, he's going to go with the same formation, isn't he? Because that seems to be his favourite formation. The Obviously with the players coming back, do you think we'll put? I mean, obviously when you play Stephen Davis as a holding midfielder next
Mhm.
to Kamara, Davis has got the experience and know how when to go forward and when to sit.
Yep.
And I thought the other night both the lads in there didn't have the knowledge to do that.
Mhm.
I know James Sand struggles and it would no struggle. I mean, I know it's his first game in Scotland and through his watching him in YouTube and talking to people, he's more a defensive. They all call him a six, more a defensive
Yeah.
midfielder. Kamara, I thought would have done more attacking wise, but we know Glenn likes to sit as well. But I just think in
Yeah.
games like this, one has to go forward because somebody has to link up the midfield to the forward players, and that's what we
Yeah.
missed. So do you think Gio's going to go with these two in future games? Or do you think once everybody's back fit, we're unlikely to see
Yeah.
that pairing again?
Depends on the game. Once everybody's back fit, It's a different story. I can see potentially the same midfield against Celtic under the circumstances. It's an away game. Obviously, the hardest opponent in the league that we've got, and it's in a game where we're we're more happy than them to take a point. Obviously, we want all three, but if you're taking a point at Celtic Park, we're happier than they are because we've already taken the three at Ibrox so far.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see the pairing again. One player you never mentioned there that I'm looking forward to getting back and can break the lines. And if you have Kamara and he wants to sit a bit deeper, another defensive midfielder who's going to drive forward and be an extra option is Ryan Jack. He is such he's a decent threat and hopefully
Yes, but
we see him against Sterling.
don't mention Ryan Jack too much because he seems to be an enigma at the moment because we think he's always 2 weeks away, and then he's due to come back and
Yeah.
he doesn't. And it's
Well, we'll
no
see.
probably not
I think
not a short to talk about Ryan Jack, but
yeah
I just feel he's running out of time at Rangers unless he
yeah
can get his fitness back because
no I think that's
we
fair.
can't rely on someone who never plays because we're too big a club
Yeah.
for that. We're too big to rely on one guy who's not going to be there most
Yeah,
of the
well,
time.
I'd like to see. Hopefully, I think if this comes too soon for him, then it is the end. But I'd like to see him play tomorrow night, um, against Sterling. I think there's a few rumors saying that he will be able to play. I'd like to see hopefully Kemar Roof and maybe Hilander in there as well. I think we've got the squad. Obviously Morales has just been called up, so he's going to miss the Old Firm and the Ross County game as well. But I think we do have the squad to make the changes and like I say, you've got Scott Arfield as well.
Yeah,
I think he would have been another option that Gio probably would have been looking at um, until obviously he picks up the knock, he picks up the injury. So depending on how last minute those injuries, the Davis and the Arfield one are, that can impact usually because if you've only got a couple of training sessions without them, and you're having to change the tactics for this game so late on, then that might have had an impact. But yeah, I don't think we'll see this pairing again unless the same injuries occur.
I know we'll go back to just quickly go back to Aberdeen game. I mean, I know we started with Kent out wide and Wright out wide, and do you think playing fashion, starting fashion, or even bringing him on earlier would have made a difference? Because at least when you're struggling at the back and you're sitting deeper
Yeah,
because you can't get out or you've not got a players to get out or the players aren't getting out for whatever reason it is, at least when you've got fashion there, you can hit the ball over the top because he's got a pace to run it on. And I thought that was maybe a thing that Gio should have done before he brought in Lundstrom or do you know what I mean? Because I thought
yeah,
fashion was an outlet for us, and I think you can use somebody's pace like that, even when you're sitting deeper, because it gets you out, it gets the ball away, and it gets you out, and it gets you up the park. But
yeah.
I thought he never done it, and he should have done
No,
it.
no, yeah. I would have taken. I think Kent was having a tough second half. I would have taken Zakala on for Kent, but before taking or for Wright, either wing, because he can play on the wing and also he's a goal scorer, so he's a secondary goal scorer up there with Morelos, who gives the extra option for scoring goals. you
Yeah,
know, it's a striker, a second striker on the pitch, but you still keep the same formation without having to move everyone about. It's not like for like, but it's an impact. It's an impact sub. That's what your subs are there for, and I think Sakala is a big impact. And I would have used him a bit earlier first.
yeah. I know. I mean, we can talk about tactics, and we've probably not spoken enough about tactics because that's usually Derek's forte. But I think you can plan all the tactics you want, but I think if the players don't show up on the night, then no matter the tactics you put into place, you're going to
Yeah,
struggle. But I do think one thing we miss, Alec, is we miss somebody in the middle of the park. I know we've got a lot of central midfield players at the team, defensive, attacking, but we've got a lot of players in that position. But somebody who's nasty, and I don't mean in a vicious way, but somebody who's nasty, especially when a game is going against us, I think it's going against us, just to put a bit of dig in to say, no, this is my team, you're
yeah,
not running over the top. It's
yeah,
like
that's right.
Aberdeen seem to do the other night. There's nobody in the middle of the park or anybody in any pitch at all to seem to
Yeah,
stand up to them. And I think if that goes through your team at times, I think the rest of the players get. Everybody just seems to take a step back, don't they? Because it's like, well,
yeah,
I don't want to get involved in this. But and I know football's changed, but do you know, like we miss a bit of a nasty streak in our team?
yeah. It's something like Souness or even Barry Ferguson. Uh,
Yeah,
Kevin Thompson. You had these players that were putting the challenges in, not like, you won the ball and that, but they also let their opponents know, you're coming to my place here. I'm not coming to yours. So you're
Yeah,
gonna try and take me on, and I'm gonna let you know exactly what's gonna happen before it even happens. We missed that, that aggressive edge in the midfield the other night. I think somebody who has it obviously is Goldson, but he's far from the action because he's at the back. You need it in midfield. So yeah, I would like to. I don't know who there is out there that we would sign, but yes, I would like to see somebody like that in our midfield.
no, I don't know myself, and I think it was probably there's players there, but obviously it depends on finances. And I think the only player we kind of got at the club that could maybe do that to a point is Scott Arfield, but obviously he was injured. But we know Scotty likes a tussle or two when he gets involved in the part. But obviously it wasn't the best performance, and watching the game twice wasn't the most enjoyable most enjoyable thing I've done either. But I suppose it's watching Rangers again, and I thought we weren't as bad as I thought after watching it the first time. The second
Yeah,
time, I'm still kind of thinking we can play a lot better. Defensively, we were fine. It was
yeah,
offensively we were poor, and I think we have to maybe look at ways to improve, especially if we're going to sit in, how to break quicker, because I think that's where we let ourselves down, how to connect the forward to the front four, whatever, to the
yeah,
back, and how to get out quicker. We've seen it with the goal, we've done it, but we have to do it more often. But I think that's basically all we've got to talk about from the Aberdeen game. So we'll come back obviously after the Stirling game with some shows. So everybody who's listening, thank you very much for joining in and listening. And hopefully Derek will be back next week to give you more insight in the tactics and probably myself did. But anyway, Alex, thank you for joining me today.
cheers.